Happy Halloween, Dan Rubenstein.
Ooh.
Welcome back to the show, my friend. Neither one of us are in costume today. I guess we are coming costumed as college football prognostication experts.
Oh, that's what we are.
As I go. That's what we are.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm great, Ty. I'm doing really well. I'm very excited for this weekend. We're going to be in Ann Arbor. I'm very excited for an extended solo road trip to just listen and have like a little Zen experience between the suburbs of Chicago and I guess, what is that? Southeastern Michigan? I don't know. It's going to be great. We get to go to a college football game. We get to see each other. You're going to get a full night's sleep, apparently, which you're looking forward to.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled for the full night of sleep. I will miss the dogs dearly, but could definitely use a good night of sleep.
Whatever decisions we make food-wise, I'm positive we're going to eat super well, as you always seem to do when you're near me. So it's great, Ty. I'm doing great. We've got a great weekend of games ahead of us that I guess we're going to watch at tailgates, maybe a little bit like during commercial breaks and halftime during the game itself, after the game. We're going to be able to, we're going to wolf down some college football content along the way on Saturday. I'm very excited. Hey, real quick, it'd be great if you could consider subscribing to the YouTube channel down below. It really helps us out.
If you are ever so inclined, if you are ready to dive into Skin Tight Saturday.
Oh my God.
Why don't we pick some games?
Let's do it.
Dan, Ty, help. I need picks of the week.
It is week 10, and we start with the big noon game. Words cannot express how juiced up Gus Johnson's going to be for this one, Dan. I set the over-under right out of the chute here at 4.5 big Zamboni references for Andy Kotelnicki.
Okay.
And certainly a game of this magnitude will also have a nickname on the other side of things. So what that ends up being remains to be seen. Gus is big on the transportation-themed nicknames.
Always.
He likes hometowns. See if he goes in a different direction. But Big Zamboni definitely making an appearance in this matchup between Ohio State and Penn State. Ohio State in Beaver Stadium. This is the last time they will be in Beaver Stadium until 2028 because of the scheduling rotation, because next year's matchup is in Columbus. So there's a lot riding on this.
So are they not playing in 2 years? Is that what's happening?
Not playing in 2 years, no.
Oh, that's dumb.
There will be an ongoing rotation now as we've got an 18-team conference. Nonetheless, we've got this one, and it's a big one, and Ohio State is favored by 3.5 points, Dan.
Yes.
I was thinking about this a little bit, and James Franklin and Ryan Day have a lot in common. They're both judged on how well they perform against Michigan.
Yeah.
Franklin, though, I would argue from a Penn State standpoint, is very much judged based solely on this game.
Okay.
This has always been the game in Penn State fan circles. Even though Franklin doesn't have a ton of success, he's 1-10 against Ohio State in his time in State College, lost the last 7. This is the game. This is the one that I think Penn State fans hold up as kind of the measuring stick for how well he is doing as coach, how far along this program is as a whole relative to its peers in the conference and around college football.
Yeah, they seem to recruit against each other a ton, right? The states touch. There's a lot of overlap. Obviously, Justin Fields was committed to Penn State for a while. Like, there's just those ongoing, I want to say, Terrell Pryor, Jeanette PA, the pride of Jeanette PA, was looking at Penn State, Ohio State. There's just always that friction there. I think you're right.
Larry Johnson Sr., longtime line coach, went to. So there's a lot of connective tissue here.
Yes.
Nonetheless, Penn State has won this game just 3 times in the history of our podcast, dating back to 2008.
Yeah.
Okay, so this has not been a successful matchup for the Nits. I am biased. I'm very biased. So I'm going to let you go first.
Mm-hmm.
I struggled with this one. I struggled with this one mightily, and I can explain why in a second. But where are you at with this one?
I went back and forth with this one. It obviously checks a number of boxes in terms of my belief system. Penn State as an underdog at home in a difficult place to play. The problem with that is we've seen Penn State lose these games at home, these big games to these big opponents. And so it's difficult to say like, oh, Penn State, good defense at home, harsh crowd, loud crowd, energetic, electric crowd. They've lost these games with James Franklin. The entire matchup seems like it'll come down to how aggressive and successful Penn State is up front with a beat-up Ohio State offensive line. Now, we can overreact to the struggles they had last week against Nebraska. I thought Nebraska did a good job. I thought Ohio State's play calling was a little bit weird, but you can't pass a ton if Will Howard's not protected. You can't run a ton if the lanes aren't there, and Josh Simmons is out for the year, and backups and guys who are sliding around were not successful and or beat up in that Nebraska game. So that to me is kind of everything, that if Penn State has a pass rush and wave up front and building a wall, whatever, up front against the run, those two talented running backs, it's going to be very difficult for Ohio State. There's just only so much they can do. On the other side, who's playing quarterback?
Right.
Who's playing quarterback? Because if it is Drew Aller, it's probably going to be a severely limited Drew Aller. And while he's not...
I don't know about severely, but limited I think is fair.
I mean...
It sounds like he's got a tweaked knee. That's the rumor. I don't believe it's anything serious. I do believe he's going to give it a shot.
I don't know.
But it's fair to assume that he's not going to move around as well.
That's what I'm saying. And it's not just the running.
Also, we may see, even if he's healthy, a fair amount of Bo Pribula in light of what we saw happen a week ago when he came in and kind of ignited that offense in a different way.
Right.
Not saying he's better and should be the starter moving forward, but he definitely gave them a different dynamic on offense. So I think we'll see both of them one way or another. But Aller's mobility is definitely something that we need to keep an eye on against a really good Ohio State front.
I'd love to see what Penn State looks like in the first half. They've been able to survive a bunch of not so great first half performances this year. Seems like if they don't have an offensive game plan and the ability to execute a good game plan in that first half, digging out against Ohio State, where you probably need to score at least, Nebraska game notwithstanding, but you probably need to score 28, 30 points to have a decent shot at beating Ohio State. If it's a Bo Pribula team, for as much of a spark as he probably is, he's not a mystery to Ohio State at this point that he could be the starting quarterback in this game. So I went back and forth on this one. I just think there is more potential for more big plays, for chunkier plays, for playing to the moment with Ohio State winning this game. I wrote down 30-24 Ohio State.
Yeah, you mentioned the biggest sticking point for me.
Yeah.
And that's Ohio State's a much more explosive team than Penn State. And you see it when you watch the games. You see it reflected in the spreadsheets. They can just beat you so many different ways. You're not going to stop them. It is a question of containment.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get a few stops here and there, and then you got to try and find a way to outscore them because you're not going to hold them to 17 points to 21 points. I just think there are too many weapons there. That's basically what Oregon did.
Right.
32-31, was that the final?
Mm-hmm.
You get a couple plays here and there, you find a way to eke it out.
But they hit those chunky plays.
They hit the chunk plays. And this is the sticking point for me with this one. The other thing, I like Penn State's defense. I think you'd be crazy to not like it, but 55% of the time they're playing really tight man-to-man coverage. This is a tough receiver core to play man-to-man against.
Agree.
It is tough. Don't be surprised if you see a lot of pass interference calls in this game. All right. This is one of these matchups that I think devolves into a shootout through the air, or if it devolves into a shootout through the air, it's not favorable to Penn State.
Bad
That's
news.
just not where they're at right now. I like Tyler Warren. I think they have found a way to incorporate some of their other receivers. I do think they're at least a little bit more downfield of a passing team than would meet the eye, but they're not on the same plane as Ohio State's receiving core. They're just not. So
right.
I'm not sold that Penn State can win a game like this, not because Drew Aller can't throw. He has had a good year, but I just think it's a Jimmy's and Joe's thing. I think Ohio State has better players. I am very, very curious to see what Penn State's plan is on offense, and this speaks to your point about first half, especially if there is now a question about quarterback with Drew Aller.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is, again, if Ty were the coach, I would try to shorten the game as best I could.
Okay.
And I think that's what they're going to try to do. I think they want to try and force the issue on the ground. And maybe this is where we're likely to see Bo Pribula, where we're likely to see creative sets with Tyler Warren, who is drawing Travis Kelce comparisons now. Have you seen this?
Have not, but good for him.
I am skeptical that that's going to work, because if we know it's coming, and I think we know it's coming, I think I know it's coming, Ohio State does too. And if this is the plan, and if it doesn't work, then you got to rely on Drew Aller, and it gets into that into that death spiral that I described a minute ago where you got to throw more than you want to.
Right.
Here is the caveat I'm adding, though, to your point about the first half.
Yeah.
We have seen 2 recent instances of Penn State being down at halftime and then zooming back into the game. On the road against SC and then on the road against Wisconsin a week ago. They have been very good at making these adjustments and sort of growing into games. So if you're somebody out there who likes to take a peek at the live lines, not the worst idea to root for a couple quick scores. If you don't have a rooting interest in this game, not the worst idea to root for a couple quick scores by Ohio State and then jump in on Penn State. Just throwing that out there.
By the way, 24-20 Bowling Green at halftime against Penn State as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
The reason I struggled with this, I think, is obvious. I want Penn State to win desperately. I'm a Penn State grad. And I found myself continually trying to reverse engineer a storyline in which Penn State wins.
Mm-hmm.
I can't in good faith pick them to win after 3 months of pumping up Ohio State. That would be the most hypocritical thing I could do. Even though I'm rooting for it, I don't think I can pick it. I think it's a good game.
Yeah.
I think it's 31-20 late. I think Penn State scores the touchdown. They try to go for 2 to get it to 31-28, but they miss it. I think the Buckeyes escape a late charge and they win 31-26.
Man, that's very specific. And so I hope for your sake, for your own pride in picking, that works out. But I hope you're wrong as a Penn State person. The big thing has been, though, with Penn State is in games where this has been close, in games where they've put themselves in position to win this game, because Ohio State's had these types of receivers for a long time now. You know, year over year, whether it's Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jeremiah Smith, like they've had these guys. It's Penn State's had guys to counter. That Parker Washington caught a bunch in a losing effort, or KJ Hamlin or Jahan Dotson. Like, they've had those guys. And now it's hope Tyler Warren's that guy and can overcome whatever is lacking the rest of these pass catchers in terms of consistency. I think you need somebody like that to get to 30. And as you pointed out, in Penn State not getting to 30, I think that's where, that's what separates even an injured Ohio State with also potentially an injured Penn State. I think that's the separation factor.
Yeah, and look, maybe somebody does step up outside of Tyler Warren. Maybe it's somebody we haven't seen yet.
We're 10 weeks in.
I know, but this is a hypothetical, right? These are the types of games where players can come out of the shadows and emerge. Is it Trey Wallace? Is it Omari Evans? Liam Clifford? Julian Fleming? Maybe this is the Julian Fleming revenge game we've been waiting for. I'm skeptical of that.
Yeah.
I'm always skeptical of a team holding something back or somebody just emerging sort of out of the blue to have a big game. So I'm rooting for Penn State.
Yeah.
I think that part's obvious, but I've been talking up Ohio State as one of the best 2 teams, frankly, in the country for a good long time now. And for me to kind of turn my back on that would go against all the hard research I've done over the last couple of months.
Yeah. And this is, by the way, a huge game in terms of Big Ten conference implications, right?
Absolutely huge. Absolutely
Ohio State needs this game. Maybe not in a way Penn State. Penn State doesn't need it as much as Ohio State in this moment. But yeah, there's a lot on the line here.
3:30 CBS, Oregon minus 14.5 points at Michigan. This is a Ty and Dan game. We're going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be there. If you will be there too, again, solidverbal@gmail.com is the easiest way to reach out and let us know. We would love to meet you.
Yeah, once again, Ty is
in
happily
the parking
married.
lot.
Yeah.
I am happily married. We'd love to meet you in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Before the game.
In Temecula. Yeah.
So when we first drew up the plans to go to this game way back when, suffice to say the world was in a much different place.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, you and I talked about this more as a means for our cheese exchange than a college football game. I am going to procure the Cooper's Sharp White American shortly after we record today. I
appreciate
it. And I'm going to figure out a way to pack it. Our friend Tim Buckley, the weather authority down in North Carolina, has assured me via Twitter that you can take cheese on a plane, that it's not going to flag anything in the FAA system. So I feel good now that an authority has weighed in on this.
Mm-hmm.
There was news this week that Jack Tuttle is hanging it up after a 5th concussion.
Oh.
5 is a lot. So we obviously wish him well. It's sad news. we obviously wish him well with whatever comes next. As for this game, though, the thing that I am hung up on is that's a lot of points for Michigan. That's a lot of points for Michigan at home. And this is not to say that I am crazy impressed by anything that Michigan's done offensively, although they did look better a week ago. It just seems like 14.5 is an awful lot, especially for an Oregon team that hasn't had a lot of road tests quite like this in the Big House this year.
Right.
So I'm a bit torn on where I come down with respect to the point spread. I think Oregon's winning. Oregon's a better team. But really, it's a question of point spread for me.
Yeah, I think that's all reasonable. So if you're Michigan, you have to have a very specific, right? You said if you were coaching Penn State, you would shorten the game. You would do all. I mean, that's sort of what the Michigan plan needs to be. I've been texting with our friend Jeff Schwartz about this a bunch, where he's just like, Michigan has to hope for the most successful game of pickleball known to man, because that's all they're really capable of offensively. They can run it all right. They have Colston Loveland, obviously one of the best tight ends in America, but they've had 9 or 10 weeks now to figure out how to optimize this offense. Who should be starting at quarterback? Obviously, Jack Tuttle's been beat up and is now no longer playing. Davis Warren starts out. Alex Orji comes in. It's very clear Alex Orji is not a high-level college football quarterback in the traditional sense, so he can be very effective on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 1, 3rd and goal, something like that. But I don't know if Michigan is looking and staring down 3rd and 8s. They're kind of screwed against a good defense. The best hope Michigan has is successful pickleball, being that magician to turn 7s into 3s when Oregon has the ball in the red zone, and shortening this game. I just don't think that's a sustainable plan if we are to believe Oregon is excellent. And I happen to think Oregon is excellent because of how complete they seem to be right now. Michigan has had 9 or 10 weeks to figure out receivers, 9 or 10 weeks to figure out a plan for the secondary, 9 or 10 weeks to figure out adjustments on defense. They haven't been able to do it. I think there's a good chance Oregon, especially with Will Johnson being, I think, at best questionable in this game to play corner. And if he's playing, he's not going to be at 100%. I think there's extraordinary opportunity for Oregon in the passing game to take it to Michigan. And this is, once again, this is not a game over Oregon's overlooking. It's network TV. It's Michigan. It's the defending champ. It's the opportunity to make a statement when a lot of people are going to be watching. I don't know. I think Oregon's able to, even if they don't jump on Michigan the way Illinois did. I have this is like 31-17 or 31-13, something like that. 34-17. I think in the range. I think they cover by 2, 3, 4 points. I think they win this game, maybe 37-20, something like that.
Okay.
I think you have to be able to match Oregon and Oregon's speed, and Michigan scored 7 against Illinois. So, I mean, that was a Jack Tuttle game, right?
Right.
That's a different quarterback, but I don't see Davis Warren being a big enough difference maker when Oregon has been holding these questionable Big Ten offenses to 9, 10, 13 points, some of which is in garbage time. I don't know. Oregon's finishing drives on defense, and I think it's just going to make it a long day for Michigan.
To Michigan's credit, I do think last week against Michigan State. Now, Michigan State is on Oregon, but I do think it was an important moment for this offense.
Okay.
It felt more like they found a better balance of how to use those two quarterbacks. And that's meaningful because it's taken them a while to get here. All right. We talked about it on the recap show. That was a nice win for Michigan.
Yeah.
Against a rival in state, but they held off Michigan State. I thought they looked pretty good, all things considered. So maybe they've turned a corner on that front. We know the offense is limited, but they're just a hard team to blow out. They play really slowly. They should be able to run the ball somewhat against Oregon.
Yeah.
Still like the defense. I'd like it more if Will Johnson played. We are told by Sherrone Moore that he will be back. He's not shutting it down. He will be back at some point in November. When that is remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Obviously, if he goes out there against Oregon and has a good game, that would help draft stock.
Mm-hmm.
But that, we don't know if that's going to happen or not. And again, I come back to what I said here when I introduced the game. Oregon's not really road tested.
They
played in Hornets. They played in Hornets nests at Oregon State, UCLA, and Purdue, Dan.
Correct.
This is a little bit of a step up in that regard. So I like Oregon to win. Oregon's the better team. For all of those reasons, though, and for the reasons I described at the top of this, I got it like 28-16.
Okay.
I think Oregon wins going away, but I do think this is one of those deals where Michigan's style of play combined with their defense, combined with the atmosphere and all that stuff, within that 14.5 number. That just feels like too much for me.
Well, it was 19 against Texas, 31-12.
31-12.
My shaky math says 19. That's week 2, and now there's more tape out on Michigan. Michigan's more beat up, it seems, than they were back then.
Look, I'm with you.
Okay.
I get it. I mean, we're in agreement that Oregon's going to win this one by double digits.
Okay.
It's just really a question of the point spread.
Okay, fair enough. We disagree.
7:30 ABC. Texas A&M minus 2.5 at South Carolina. The line has come down. A&M off that emotional home comeback over LSU. Now they're alone atop the SEC standings. Can they avoid the rat poison, Dan?
Mm-hmm.
The rat. Everyone's talking about A&M suddenly. Can they avoid the rat poison, as Saban once called it? Now they're on the road against South Carolina. South Carolina off a bye.
Correct.
South Carolina in need of just 2 more wins. They've got one in the bag later. I think it's against Wofford. Need to beat one of 3 SEC teams the rest of the way in order to get to 6 wins and qualify for a bowl, which frankly is an incredible story because we didn't have that. I didn't have that. A lot of people didn't have that. So this is a team that has overperformed on some level. I wanted to start this conversation, though, with something that you mentioned to me yesterday.
Okay.
With your Danalytics. You popped the hood. You took a look at points per drive with respect to all these teams that we're going to discuss, but especially with Texas A&M. You found something interesting with Texas A&M when you compared last year versus this year.
Yeah, they're basically unchanged with regard to, points per drive scored minus points per drive allowed. Their net points per drive. They're performing in an almost identical way to last season. The difference being they have a better coaching staff and they're winning those closer games instead of losing them like they did last year when you look at Tennessee and Alabama, and they're pulling the game out or, staying ahead of a team like Arkansas or whoever this year, Mississippi State. They're winning games where they have stretches where they're not particularly good. Obviously, it hasn't been a consistent offense going between 2 different quarterbacks. So that obviously plays a specific role in things. And starting out with a new coach, losing to Notre Dame, where the offense didn't really exist against a good Notre Dame team. So, yes, they are finishing stronger. They're making better decisions. They're getting better over the course of games. But it's not like this is a night and day performance from where they were last year as a pretty good team who lost winnable moments.
I think that speaks volumes for Mike Elko.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complete 100% compliment on how well this team is coached this year.
To have the same amount, basically, of output and be in a much, much different spot where they're atop the SEC and expanded SEC and more teams in this thing, different conference structure, all that. Again, A&M's riding high, literally riding high atop the standings. I think the breakdown for this game is really straightforward. I think A&M's got to deal with the South Carolina defensive line, and they have to figure out a way to dominate with their own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. It's not more complicated than that. We do not need to overcomplicate it. The Carolina offense right now is a top 50 unit, which is okay. Very okay.
Yeah.
Highly inefficient, have playmakers.
Mm-hmm.
We love Lenoris, the creator, on this show.
Of course.
Highly inefficient. Whatever they've done is in spite of their line, not because of it. They do not have a good line. So it is a big mismatch up front. If they can figure out a way to deal with that, A&M is prone to the big play.
Yeah.
But even still, it seems like a bridge too far for me that they're just going to be able to work with. They're going to dispose of this Texas A&M defensive line, knowing how good it is. So that, I think, is a big advantage for A&M, even though I do like Lenora Sellers. It's an inefficient offense with a bad line going up against a good defensive front. That favors A&M.
Yeah.
I also think the play should be to stick with Marcel Reed. And
as do I.
At time of recording, I have not seen this officially mentioned anywhere. If Mike Elko were smart, he wouldn't tell anybody. But presumably Shane Beamer's going to be prepared for him now. It's not going to be a Brian Kelly situation a week ago when they weren't. His legs, I think, can help offset that Carolina line to some extent. I think that's what they're counting on. I think that gives them something of an advantage here, or at least a device to counteract what we know.
Right,
is
keep them
coming
off
from
balance.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
27-17 A&M is my final.
Man, so that kind of score says to me you feel like A&M has arrived in year one of Mike Elko. That this is a completed team.
I think it's more of a vote against South Carolina as a complete team.
I think that's right. I think that's okay. I have South Carolina winning this game, and I hate it. Whoa. Okay, so here's what South Carolina needs. South Carolina needs 2.5 pixie dust moments. So they're going to need a 77-yard touchdown run. They're going to need a pick six. They're going to need, they have maybe the best onside kicker in America after his 3,000 RPM onside kick.
You really like that tweet of mine. That might be my favorite tweet.
You nailed it.
It was true. It was beautiful. I've never seen anything that beautiful in my life.
They need the pixie dust because I don't necessarily trust Lenora Sellers if they're down 21-17 with 3 minutes left. After the end of that Alabama game, and now I know this game is at home, so maybe that's a different animal. Wow. And maybe that moment was used to fuel Lenora Sellers into sort of calming down and having more of a plan late in games and being on the better page with his offensive coordinator. I think this is an incredibly difficult spot for A&M on offense, for Marcel Reed specifically.
I would agree with that. I think that's a fair assessment. I can't get there on South Carolina. I can't get there. I don't trust this offense enough against this A&M defense.
With what this defense did against a much worse offense in Oklahoma, but when you see that A&M still has some questions along the offensive line and they're going to face this front, I think they're going to be able to get the pixie dust. I think this is such an advantaged moment. It's a letdown spot after a big game against LSU. South Carolina coming off of a bye. I don't know. We've seen that like late season Shane Beamer fun. I think it does come down to that matchup. I think it does come down to the moment being maybe a little bit large for Marcel Reed, who won in Gainesville, I want to say. That was in Gainesville, so he is road tested. I think South Carolina just plays to the moment. 23-21 Gamecocks.
Wow.
Yeah.
This would throw things in a friggin' blender in the SEC. And certainly with regard to the playoff conversation. Because A&M has gradually worked its way back up. Okay, we disagree.
By the way, South Carolina did well against Jalen Milroe. Mobile quarterback. Perhaps the most mobile quarterback. Yeah. And now they have Marcel Reed. Okay.
All right, this would be something. We shall see.
Yes.
8 p.m. ACC Network. Maybe the biggest game ever to appear in the ACC Network.
Potentially, yeah.
It is criminal that this game is not getting more love. However, if you're listening to this show, you've probably got some way to watch the ACC Network.
I would assume so, yeah.
You can enjoy the silky smooth tones of our friend Wes Durham.
Oh, nice. Love Wes.
Who I believe is on the call for this one here. Pitt at SMU, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. SMU, a 7.5 point home favorite. The question is whether Eli Holstein, the quarterback, is going to play for Pitt. He went down later in the game last Thursday against Syracuse. Pretty much immediately afterwards, Pat Narduzzi downplayed the injury. But now he's playing it back up because Narduzzi's a gamesman. He knows what he's doing. And he has basically not given a tell as to whether or not it's going to be him or Nate Yarnell, excuse me. My expectation is that he's going to play based on Nard Dog's initial reaction, but things can change.
Yeah.
Here's my honest question to you.
Okay.
Do you trust either of these teams to lay 7.5 points against a good opponent?
No. I don't think I do. I love this matchup for how up in the air everything seems. And the obvious overlap is SMU just committed 6 turnovers last week, and Pitt just turned Kyle McCord over personally 5 times. All linebackers, great linebacking core. I think they have like the number 2 or 3 havoc rate among all linebacking groups in the country. That there is that's a fun number to overreact to in this moment, because I don't think it's going to come true in this moment, but it is fun that fresh off of 6 turnovers, they get 5-pick Pittsburgh.
Well, and this is an Ashanti game for me. This is an Ashanti game because if it is about trust, and in this case, if we don't trust anybody, you got to take the points.
That's what I have. I have point taken. Literally points taken.
You got to take the points here. I have it at 34-31 SMU. I think
Okay.
they win. I think it's a fun game.
I say
maybe the best game of this window.
27-24 is mine. Yeah.
SMU?
Yes. SMU pulls it out at home. There is something that I trust a little more in the Ashanti corollary about SMU in higher leverage moments than Pitt, who have been shaky on third down and a little bit shaky in the red zone this season. And so knowing that obviously SMU and that stadium know it's a huge game and huge opportunity for them, it'll be rocking. So that to me is the question. You couple that with quarterback question health-wise with Eli Holstein. I think Nate Yarnell's pretty good. Probably was a somewhat of a difficult decision in camp, but I'd give the edge to the home team. There is going to be, by the way, X factor here, rain in the forecast, Ty.
Uh-oh. Oh, look at you. Love this. This is your favorite thing in the world.
I'm just saying it doesn't always come to pass. You know, maybe the rain is over before the start. Maybe it is delayed, whatever. There's slop potential. A little bit of slop potential here.
On Skin Tight Saturday.
Skin Tight Saturday.
What I'm looking at specifically is the lines. Both of the offensive lines are heavily penalized. Pitt misses more blocks. SMU allows more pressure. That pressure, I think, is something worth monitoring here.
Okay.
Because I'll go back to a stat that I mentioned a few weeks ago. Now, we know in light of last week, obviously, Kevin Jennings is a bit mistake-prone.
Yeah.
Pitt blitz is something like 43% of the time on defense, which is a lot. Third highest rate in college football. Very aggressive in the front seven. I don't know if they've encountered anyone yet, though, that can take advantage of all those numbers coming forward. And the stat from a few weeks ago is that Kevin Jennings, now I don't know how these numbers have moved in light of last week, but until fairly recently, Kevin Jennings has a higher or had a higher completion percentage against the blitz than he did just sitting back in the pocket.
Yes.
Which is kind of a backwards way of thinking of things here, right? I am curious to see if Pitt's strength brings out Kevin Jennings' strength. It feels clunky to me too.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see how the lines play in and how that Pitt blitz affects or does not affect Kevin Jennings and his ability to move the ball through the air.
Okay.
But 34-31 SMU, again, I think a fun game. I've been talking this one up for a couple weeks now. I hope people have a chance to watch this one if they have the ACC network or can like borrow somebody's password to log into ESPN.com.
Text Ty, 610. Keep going, Ty.
I'm excited about this game, and it's very meaningful with respect to the ACC. You know, these are two of the unbeaten ACC teams right now, and they both need it. So we'll see. We'll see coming out of this one when we talk about things on, and hopefully it's over by the time we record that we can at least offer some comment on this, but at a minimum Tuesday to circle back and talk about this one.
Definitely.
So we agree, I guess.
We agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's build some quads here, Dan. There weren't a whole lot of other true headliners that jumped out to me, but there are a bunch of intriguing matchups throughout the course of the day.
Think about the heart, the passion, the love, the commitment, and the energy you're willing to put into it.
We call this segment the Quad Fathers. We go through each block of games. We build your ideal quads, if that's the thing you can do, either via your streaming provider or manually if you're one of the real ones.
One of the real ones.
12 p.m. ESPN. We got Ole Miss minus 6.5 on the road at Arkansas. 12 o'clock on the C-Dub. Virginia Tech minus 4 at Syracuse. 12 o'clock Eastern on ABC. Duke at Miami. Miami favored by 20. And I've included in here 12:45. Just for the hell of it, Diego Pavia getting another bite at that Hugh Freeze apple. Vandy at Auburn. Auburn at home favored by 6.5. Who you got?
Okay. I am going to go Arkansas plus points.
Ooh.
Yeah. I think the offense is enough. So this game has gone back and forth with Ole Miss winning the games in Oxford and Arkansas winning the games in Fayetteville these last few years, including, I want to say, a 52-51 Ole Miss win 2 years ago.
Some of these games have gotten weird. They have.
That Lane Kiffin, after the fact, basically, when interviewed, sideline said, I hate how I feel right now. Like, he just had a full emotional moment in a winning effort. He was like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. It was great.
Yeah.
And I fully identify with that. But I'm going to take the points there because I think Arkansas's offense has had a good amount of pop lately.
Pop, pop,
That's right. That's pop, pop. That's magnitude from Community.
pop, pop.
I love it.
And I think they can score along with them. So I think it's going to be a shootout, somewhere in the vein of 38, 34, something like that. I'm taking the points there.
See, I've got Ole Miss by multiple scores.
Really?
I do. Arkansas might be the most talked about 5-3 team, even more so than Michigan.
Okay.
At least on this show, because they got the brutal schedule. They play most of the teams of merit in the SEC. But I'm not ready to give up on Ole Miss yet.
I think Ole Miss can win this game. I just think it's going to be very difficult to separate. Okay.
I'm not ready to give up on them yet. I am out on Ole Miss as like a playoff team. I think that ship has sailed.
Right.
But I think in terms of turning in another 10-2 season, they can do that. And I think they win this one going away. I like the matchup for them, actually.
I am giving points. I think Virginia Tech on the road on CW against Syracuse. Here's the thing.
I think Tech's undervalued right now. I agree with this.
Okay, so Virginia Tech is I'll still call it weird and questionable series of decisions at the end of the Miami game from having, I think, a better and stronger reputation in terms of where they are right now. I'm not saying Syracuse is what they were against Pitt. I'm not saying that. To know Kyle McCord is capable of 5 picks, it just scares me. He's not going to throw 5 picks. He probably won't throw 2 or 3 picks against Virginia Tech, excuse me. But that he's capable, it scares me a little bit. With the way Virginia Tech's been playing, especially with what they can do when they're running well, I'm going to take Virginia Tech on the road here. All Diego Pavia does is beat up on Hugh Freeze. I'm going to take Vandy on the road to cover.
I'm taking
if
Vandy
not win.
too.
Sorry. I'm taking points. Duke at Miami.
Manny Diaz revenge game.
It's a Manny revenge game.
Manny Diaz revenge game, baby. Come on. He's taking that hair back to South Beach where his dad was the mayor or something like that. Manny's got an axe to grind with this program.
He does.
How can you not take the points?
And, well, look, so it's a letdown spot in that the end of the SMU game was certainly deflating for Duke. They were right there to beat a good SMU team. But it seems like it's too many points. This does seem like a game that previous iterations of Mario Cristobal in a letdown spot after establishing dominance against Florida State loses or barely survives against Duke here. I don't think Duke has enough pop, thanks magnitude, to score with Miami, but I think Duke up front can maybe force a mistake or two from Cam Ward, slow this game down a little bit. I don't know, 27-17 Miami.
Well, Duke forced a bunch of turnovers last week.
Yes, they did.
And, I think if their defense is just interesting here.
I like that it's early, too, by the way, Ty. I like that it's that sleepy nooner in Miami.
Oh, yeah. No, look, the Miami offense has scored at least 36 points in every game this season. Duke has only scored 27 once.
Yes.
If Duke's going to win this game, if Duke's going to stay within this number, it's going to be by virtue of their defense. We know they can force turnovers. We know Manny Diaz right now, what that looks like.
Yes.
Right? It's always kind of looked the same. I think they can stay within that number. I think Miami wins. But I'm going on Duke plus the 20. Let me sub in another one. If none of those
Real
games...
quick, by the way, in terms of that game...
Yeah, go ahead.
A little bit of precip, possibly in the forecast. 15, 16-mile-an-hour winds, humid. I'm just saying.
Another game you could sub in if you are ever so inclined.
Yeah.
FS1, Minnesota -3 at Illinois.
I really like Minnesota here.
I am so ready to be hurt again by Minnesota. I'm so ready. I feel like they burn me every year in this spot.
Yeah.
I always boomerang back to Minnesota. I don't know why. I was only in Minnesota one time in my life with you.
Mm-hmm.
Very fine people. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved my time there. It was cold as hell.
Yeah.
They burn me every year. Last week was a really good situation for them at home with Maryland coming off that USC win, but they look good. It wasn't just a situational thing. The offense was humming. There is an interesting quirk in this game in the blitzing stats, okay? Minnesota is one of the least blitzed teams in college football, only about 19% of the time when they drop back. Meanwhile, Illinois blitzes about 35% of the time when a team drops back. So where I'm going with this is how does Max Brosmer, how does that Minnesota line handle that blitz? That to me is the whole thing.
Okay.
It's the whole thing. I would also add that teams are blitzing the farm against Illinois and Luke Altmaier because they are not good at protecting him at all. Minnesota has blitzed a fair amount to its credit. I like Minnesota a lot here. I am inclined. Oh, I don't know if I want to do it. They're a road team. Let's do it. What the hell?
Wow.
Lock of the week.
It just seems like a really bad matchup for me for Illinois. I don't know. I don't like this matchup for Illinois.
Okay, so how you get to Minnesota is by being a team that can possess the ball, can push them around, have the ability to push them around a little bit. That's Iowa. It's Michigan, and they're right there against Michigan. But Iowa...
It's not Illinois, right?
It's not Illinois.
No, it just isn't.
Illinois' got some playmakers on defense in the back, and I like Luke Altmaier. I like the receivers, but this Minnesota team has done a great job in preventing big plays. So if you're telling me Illinois needs to be thoughtful and patient and just figure out how to get to 3rd and 3 every time, I don't think they have that ability. So I'm going with Minnesota here on the road, maybe to turn them over a couple of times.
They're going to win. They're going to win 16-14 and screw me on that lock.
Illinois coming off of the Oregon game. I don't know. I like Minnesota here. 20-13.
Afternoon quad.
Yeah.
I've only got 3 games, so you're going to have to fill in a 4th.
Okay.
I don't know what the 4th one would be.
By the way, early on, there's some other interesting ones. I'll buzz through them really quick. I like Army big over Air Force. NC State giving 10 points against anybody is hilarious, but Stanford does nothing if not lose by many points every week, although they were competitive against Wake last week. I like UTSA, by the way, at home against Memphis. I think that's kind of a tasty matchup. I like that one. And Purdue Northwestern, Purdue coming off of a bye. They're going to beat Northwestern at home. Continue.
Let's build some after.
Okay.
Now my question to you is, how bad do you really want this?
Only got 3 games in this quad. You're going to have to fill in a 4th.
Okay.
Florida, Georgia is the first one. That's obvious. 3:30 ABC. On Peacock, 3:30 Eastern, Indiana -7 on the road at Michigan State. And 3:30 on ESPN, Texas Tech at Iowa State. Iowa State favored by 13.5 points. I looked at some of these other matchups. UCLA, Nebraska isn't particularly interesting to me.
Okay.
Kansas State at Houston, North Carolina, FSU, Arizona, UCF. Navy at Rice is interesting to me.
Okay.
Coastal Carolina at Troy is interesting to me. I kind of like Coastal Carolina -4.5.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm watching those games though. I struggled truly
Yeah.
with a 4th game to put in this quad. So maybe that 4th game is actually Oregon, Michigan.
So, yeah. So, okay. You are leaving out. So it's Texas Tech, Iowa State, Indiana, Michigan State. Is that one of them? And Florida, Georgia?
And Florida, Georgia. Yeah.
Okay. I think those are good quads. I love the Kansas State-Houston opportunity for Houston.
Why?
Kansas State coming off of a last-second letdown win in a rivalry game. Yes?
Yes.
I don't think Houston's great. I think defensively they're interesting. And Kansas State obviously has put themselves in position to maybe potentially sort of win this conference. I love that Arizona and UCF are playing against each other. These two teams have combined for 9 straight losses. Okay? These two teams are showing themselves to be varied and specific at the same time. They are world-class losers. Arizona and UCF. I have called this one the Siesta Bowl. Somebody needs to win. Siesta Bowl, : somebody is going to get off. What do you say? Get off the schneid?
Get off the schneid, yeah.
I think UCF has lost 5 straight and Arizona 4. Maybe I flipped that. So I actually like Arizona here on the road against UCF.
Bear in mind, though, UCF now might have a little extra pop. Give me the sound.
Pop, pop.
On defense, no Ted Roof.
I understand.
Ted Roof out. Roof is out.
I just enjoy that somebody's going to need to win that game. I like that. I like North Carolina -2.5 against Florida State. I don't know if you should be watching this one. North Carolina very quietly. Look at the rest of their schedule. This could be an 8-4 team if they have indeed turned a corner post-bye week, win over Virginia. Okay? They're not catastrophically bad on defense. They are merely below average. They were catastrophically bad against James Madison, I grant you. I actually would watch UCLA-Nebraska as my fourth on Big Ten Network.
Is Yogi calling that game?
Guy and Yogi are calling that game. There is something about UC. It's too many points for me for Nebraska's offense in this spot. I think UCLA's offense is okay. Nebraska's offense has shown itself to be below average this year. I don't know. I think UCLA can make that one a little bit weird and interesting. So that might be my fourth one there.
I don't really have a pick in that game, but I do have a pick in those three that I mentioned at the top here. I wanted to talk about the Florida-Georgia game as part of the big game segment because it's a rivalry, but point spread 16.5 points.
Yeah.
It doesn't project as a close game. Georgia has won the last two in this meeting by 23 and 22 over the last 2 years, 43-20, 42-20.
Yeah. Very
consistent. So I guess if you use that logic and you look at the point spread, Vegas is saying what? Florida's about a touchdown closer, something like that this year than they've been, which I think is fair, given where Florida's at, given where Georgia's at. I do think the Gators are going to give them a better game this year. I don't think they're going to win, but I do think there's some vulnerability on the Georgia side. I do think Florida is probably better than meets the eye. 34-21. I got Georgia winning, but not covering.
Maybe I'm reading into it too much because I'm with you. I'm going to take the points here. I like that Florida took care of business against Kentucky, obviously. Georgia did not. That was a long time ago, though. I like that Florida against what might be the best defense in America, maybe just in terms of performance and points per drive, whatever, in Tennessee, took that game to overtime in which their starting quarterback got hurt. And DJ Lagway was very close to leading this team to a win against Tennessee. I think Florida's competing here. I don't think ultimately Florida has enough juice here, but I'm taking the points. I think the best of Georgia.
You got to go points here.
Yeah.
I think you got to go points here. I really do. And I like Georgia a lot. I mean, there's not much reason to not like Georgia. They may not be as bulletproof as they've been in the past.
Yeah.
But it's still a very good team, one of the best in the SEC, if not the country. Florida's going to play hard. Florida is going to play hard. And I do kind of shudder a little bit when I think of a true freshman and DJ Lagway going up against this defense, but I also think he's really talented, and I think he has had a chance to kind of grow into the role.
And Florida has more data to collect on the types of plays he likes, the types of throws he feels confident in making, the types of throws he shouldn't be making, the types of plans that they should have on third down or in the red zone or in higher leverage moments with him. They're collecting internal data, which I think is nice. That said, Ty, I think there's a 15% chance this game ends 55-13 Georgia.
No.
Right? It's 100% somewhere on this table, somewhere when you sim this game 100 times, 15 of those ends up with Georgia winning this game by 40. But enough of the sims in my mind, in my very silly brain, end up with, I don't know, 27-21, 33-21, something like that. So I'm going to go Georgia here. Georgia to win, Florida to cover.
The Indiana -7 against Michigan State seemed to be good vibes that Curtis Rourke is going to be back for this game, which is obviously a very, very big deal.
Yeah.
In order to cover this, Michigan State needs to score 30 points. 30 points?
Yeah, something like that. And Michigan State needs to finish drives.
Points.
They outgained Michigan, right?
I'm not convinced they can do that. I don't think they can do that. And the fact that they're super mistake prone, they're -7 in turnover ratio. Indiana, by the way, +8, which is part of the story for Indiana this year.
Right.
I could see there being some potential weirdness in this game because this is really Michigan State's last bulletin board game.
Right.
They're going to have circled. I'm just not sure it's going to stay weird for 60 minutes. I don't think Michigan State's got the horses right now, and it feels very weird to say this about Indiana, but you and I have watched enough Indiana at this point to say that they are legit. This is not smoke and mirrors.
Right.
They're very good. 38-24. I've got Indiana minus the number.
Okay, so we're what, a week, 2 weeks looking in the rearview mirror of Michigan State beating Iowa by 12 at home.
Correct.
You can't fully say that they're a different team at home because they lost by 31 to Ohio State. If you like Michigan State, you have to, in concert, say they're better at home. This is what, afternoon game?
3:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Eastern
They're
on Peacock.
They're better at home, and Indiana, I don't think, has played. They haven't finished with a 1-touchdown win or a single-digit win, right? All of their wins have been by double digits. If Curtis Rourke is the starter, Indiana wins by double digits. Give the points. If Taven Jackson is the starter, I'm going to take the points.
Okay, fair. That's fair.
That's all.
And then the other one, Texas Tech against Iowa State. Iowa State favored by about 13.5, 14 points. I'm going to go points here. I think the Clones win. I think it's like 42-30.
Okay.
I think there will be a lot of points. It just spooks me out that UCF created so many big plays a couple weeks ago against Iowa State.
But that's not how Texas Tech is built, though.
I know, but I think they can score.
Okay.
I think they could score in Iowa State. I don't think they can stop Iowa State, but I think they can score. And after, again, that UCF game really spooked me out.
I hear you. I understand.
That really threw me for a loop because I've been high on Iowa State this whole time.
Yeah.
And watching that game, I had it up on the iPad as we were recording. It was like, what is going on here, guys? Stop them. You're supposed to have a defense.
Yes.
That's why I'm taking points here.
I think I'm taking points here too, and I think it's mostly because I think there's a backdoor cover involved in this one. I think it's a comfortable Iowa State win, but Iowa State has not been a good running team this year. So I'm not sure that I trust Iowa State with a lead in a spot like this. Yes. So
a little bit of a... I haven't played that sound a whole lot this year.
I hate the Texas Tech defense, by the way. So I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. I think you're right to sort of go along that path. So I have it as like 38-27, somewhere in there.
One other game kind of in this window.
Yeah.
Not kind of. It is in this
It's
window.
in this window.
ESPN 2. Navy minus 10.5 against Rice.
On the road, yeah.
This line's come down from 12. Rice just fired its coach.
They did.
The only caveat here, stopping me from really going in on Navy hard, is that Rice has a decent enough defense. And they've gotten better now for 3 straight weeks coming out of their bye. They can't score. That's their problem. But defensively, they've been all right. So I am giving a heavy glance at Navy minus 10.5 right now as one of my money bets.
What's the status of Blake Horvath and his beat up thumb and hand?
Unclear to me.
Yeah.
Unclear to me. But I'm giving a hearty glance at that one because Navy needs to win. Navy needs to hold serve. Navy is on a collision course now with first Tulane.
Yeah.
And then if they make it past Tulane, Army for potentially that AAC championship game.
Yeah, I think Navy's going to blow them out. I don't know. I think it's just a bad time to play Navy for Rice after firing a coach. Maybe you think there's a spark with an interim, but
I don't.
Navy covers these lines, Ty. They cover. If you're a flawed team, if your offense can't stay on the field, and all of a sudden your defense, albeit a decent defense, has wobbly legs from playing 48 minutes, I don't know. I'm giving those points pretty happily.
Let's go to the night block if we can.
Welcome to the pain zone is where we live.
It's the pain zone. There are some interesting games here in the nightcap.
Yes.
7:30 ESPN Louisville at Clemson. Clemson minus 10.5. 7:45 Big Ten Network USC at Washington. 8 p.m. ESPN2 TCU at Baylor. And then I also included this one. You could include Wisconsin, Iowa if you want. Arizona State, Oklahoma State could be fun. Kentucky against Tennessee might have some points of intrigue. By the way, Mark Stoops' buyout is $45 million, not $4 million. I looked at the
That
wrong
was
line.
surprising, yeah.
Got a bunch of folks who wrote in about that. Thank you. I appreciate the heads up. I pulled out Georgia Southern against South Alabama.
Ooh, okay.
This is a meaningful matchup between 2 3-1 teams in the Sun Belt. South Alabama is favored by 6 points in this game. They are better on offense. They are better on defense. They just hammered Louisiana Monroe, and they are my second lock of the week.
Oh,
Lock of the week.
Going a little bit off the radar with some of these locks this week. I like South Alabama a lot in this spot.
okay. I as well like South Alabama. I like Baylor against TCU. I think their ability on offense and TCU's inability on defense to get off the field, I think you could see a lot of long, extended drives and the TCU defense wearing down. And TCU, even with a lead, they have not been a good running team this year. It's another team that I just don't trust to keep a lead. It was a nice... TCU was the team that gave away the UCF game, I believe. They were up, so I don't know. I don't trust TCU with the lead at all, even with a nice one last week against, I believe, Texas Tech. So I'm going Baylor here to keep the offense going with Jake Spavital. My lock of the week right now is Iowa minus 3.5 in that Heartland game.
Lock of the week.
So, why are you in on Iowa?
A bit of a letdown spot for Wisconsin, losing that game at home to Penn State. Iowa is Iowa coming off of a bye? I believe they are.
Okay.
Unless I'm forgetting some Iowa game that it didn't exist. Oh, yeah, no, Iowa beat up on Northwestern, excuse me. Iowa beat up on Northwestern. They're looking good, 40-14. There is something about Iowa, and I'm not a Wisconsin. I think you have to have a quarterback to beat Iowa on some level, and I just don't think Wisconsin does. So even though this game is going to be bruising, I have Iowa 23-14, something like that.
I believe it's now a Brendan Sullivan Iowa as well.
And it's now a Brendan Sullivan Iowa, who, again, a little more than Cade McNamara, it seemed, last week, now that I remember actually watching that game. So I'm going Iowa here. I'm taking the points with Washington. They're better at home. USC has been on a tour of losses away from home. They're going to lose in something like 7 different states this year. I'm going to go with USC away from home, finding a way to lose 28-27.
I'm on SC. Come on.
Really? Well, look.
You're being mean.
In fairness.
Should they not be able to run the ball in this game?
They should, but do you trust Lincoln Riley to call running plays when they're working? I don't know if I do.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. I mean, I jotted down. They should be able to run, right? Will they run? Question mark.
There's just something like, if you can find a way to lose 28-27, Lincoln Riley has been in like the stacks of the USC library researching how to lose games 28-27. And look, Washington loses dumb ways too, but I don't know. I think there is something about Washington with their own ability to run. And I just, look, at the very least, somebody's winning this game 28-27. And I'm going to take the points.
I'm going SC.
All right, have fun. Have fun.
We'll see. I'm on SC here. I'm on Clemson minus the number against Louisville.
Ooh, I am not.
I'm going to fall back on something you said a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And I don't remember if it was publicly on a show or if it was privately when we were just sort of discussing things, but you said Tyler Shuck's a medium game quarterback.
He is a medium game quarterback, yeah.
He's not a big game quarterback. He's a medium game quarterback. And he's having a good year. More importantly, he's healthy for the first time in maybe forever. I just don't see Clemson having trouble here. Coming out of a bye week.
I hear you.
I think Clemson's the real deal. I really do. I have a lot of belief in Clemson right now. Now, that being said, the schedule in November is more of a firmer test than we've seen recently for Clemson.
Oh, yes.
The schedule gets tougher, and this is kind of the initial wave of that. I think Louisville is a 4 or 5 loss team. I just think that's who they are right now. I'm not totally sold on this team being able to go into Clemson and knock off the Tigers. 10.5 is a bigger number, but give me the Tigers here.
Louisville strikes me as a team that beats okay teams by single digits and loses to good teams by single digits.
Right. They play up to and down to all of their competition.
I think that's what we have on hand here. I think Louisville is just good enough to lose this game 38-28, 37-30, something like that. Like they're able to compete. They scored 40, 45 points against Miami, I believe. They lose to Notre Dame by 7. They lose to SMU by 6 or 7. They're a competitive team that just doesn't have that extra. And thus, we have Clemson winning by 7 to 11 points.
I've also got ASU -3 on the road at Oklahoma State.
You have ASU winning this game?
I do, yeah.
I have ASU winning this game as well. I think Sam Leavitt is playing coming off of a bye. Now that I've got all my bye weeks all mixed up, I believe it is. And so, yeah, Oklahoma State, as much as I enjoyed the fight in that game against BYU, I just don't trust this offense at all week to week. So I'm going with ASU to have some fun on the road.
If you are in the market this week for live college football games and podcasts in pristine audio form, this is your reminder to download the Varsity Network app. Dan, I was at a birthday party last week. I had the Varsity Network app blaring on the old AirPod the whole time I was there.
I was driving home from a soccer game when I found out Nebraska had taken the lead against Ohio State. There I was with the Varsity app.
Varsity app, yep. Had it going in the ear. It is an essential if you are a college football fan, and it's free.
It's great.
Just go to the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, search for your school. You get all the content you want. You can listen to our podcast. There are a bunch of other good ones on there as well. Whatever team you're into, you name it. And also listen to the College Football Blitz, which runs pretty much all throughout the day from 12 to 12 on Saturdays. They do a good job keeping you up to date with all things going on in the world of college football.
By the way, I do have Tennessee. I'm going to give the points. Tennessee over Kentucky.
Oh, yeah. I don't know where Kentucky's at right now.
I think
I'm with you on that.
This
one.
might be a get-right moment for Tennessee, especially on the ground against Kentucky after last week's performance from Jarquez Hunter. I like Tennessee on the ground to this is just feels like a crock-potting opportunity to win a game 35-13.
That does it for Skin Tight Saturday, Dan Rubenstein. Again, if you will, thank you, Catwoman. If you will be in Ann Arbor, please let us know.
Yeah.
We will do our part to try and meet up.
Yeah,
before the game in the parking lot.
I want to get a couple dozen donuts. See if we can find people we like. Give out some. Everybody likes donuts, right? On a college football Saturday.
Can we put a QR code on the donuts so people can find the podcast? Is that a thing that happens?
I think somebody probably can make a QR icing.
An edible QR icing.
Yeah. I think that's doable. I don't know if we have time to figure that out now.
No, definitely.
My priority, I don't know what I'd like to get to Zingerman's. I'd like to get to Iggy's. I'd like to get to, there's a pizza spot that I've heard is good called Freddy's in like the more of like the Metro Detroit area, but
okay.
That's my plan as of now, but I'll take any recommendations from people.
And we'll be doing a cheese exchange.
We
won't be doing it publicly. That's not something we can do in public.
No.
But, you're going to give me some Grande. I'm going to give you some Cooper Sharp White American.
Yeah. It's a very Midwestern Big Ten thing of us to do now that I'm a Big Ten alum doing a cheese exchange in Ann Arbor. Yeah.
All right. Don't forget to go to playruntheboard.com to get in on our Pick'em game.
Yes.
Hopefully we shared some insight with you that you can use to pick those games correctly. You'll be playing for that $100 Bombas gift card. Tune in on Saturday night. We will have some form of a show for you. It will be different because of circumstances.
Don't apologize. It'll be great. Just like it's great when you can drop that big, stanky, slithering, slinky Drummond 5 tie.
Oh! Did you say slinky, by the way?
Yeah. Isn't that like a sexy term? Wearing a little slinky dress?
I guess. All right. Sure. Why not?
Okay, I'm Google image searching slinky dress. Yeah, Ty. It is sexy.
A slinky skin tight Saturday in the Pat League, Dan. 12:30, 4-3 Lehigh on the road in the Hornets' Nest of Multisport Field, squaring off against Georgetown at 5-3. This is the premier matchup this week in the Pat League, Dan. I'm gonna go Mountain Hawks. I have married into a Lehigh family.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Mountain Hawks on the road into the Hornets' Nest that is Multisport Field, getting the W, sending the Hoyas down.
Yeah, that's a lot of people have said that before. A lot of people have been sorry. Give me Georgetown at home in Multisport Field, Hornets' Nest.
1 p.m. The Lafayette Leopards 4-4 on the road at Bucknell. Bucknell 3-5. Dan,
I'm going Lafayette big, 44-14.
I'm going Nellies here.
Oh, how dumb.
I feel like I need to make it up to the fine people of Williamsport, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I do.
Bucknell not in Williamsport.
They're
close enough.
They're close enough, yeah.
Lewistown?
And
is
finally,
that where it is? Lewistown?
Lewistown, yeah. Last but not least, Colgate, the Gators, tipping the scales at 2-6, squaring off against Fordham at 0-8, Dan. Not a good year for the Hammies.
No, but a nice night in the Bronx for the Yankees as we record this on Wednesday night. Dodgers only up 3-1 in the World Series at time of recording. We'll see what happens by the time people listen to this after Game 5.
Yeah.
I did see that New York teams set a record for the number of daily losses, right? It was like the Rangers, the Knicks, the Yankees, There was it was like 7 different New York-based teams, and I'm not going against that. I'm going Colgate here in the Bronx to keep that going.
Let's go Gators. Why not?
Yeah.
Let's go Gators. Okay, thank you, one. Thank you all for downloading, for listening, for supporting. Make sure you tell your friends about the show. It helps us grow the footprint of the Verballerhood. Get in on the game at playruntheboard.com. And, of course, if you made it this far, why not hit follow or subscribe? Let's consummate this podcast relationship. Skin Tight Saturday, of course. Make sure you hit follow, hit subscribe so that you don't miss any of our episodes. If you are out on the town, either tonight as you're hearing this on a Thursday or this weekend, be it on a college campus or at a party with friends or just going out to the party at the bar, wherever, be safe. Send in pictures of your costume. We'd love to. I love a good costume picture.
Ooh, I like that spicy request. Okay.
It's not a spice.
Send those spicy costume shots to tyhildenbrandt@gmail.
No. Listen.
Yeah.
Our audience is like 95% male, Dan.
I didn't say females. If you're a dude wearing a spicy costume,
I'm not looking for spiciness. I just appreciate creativity. That is where this is coming from.
You don't dislike spiciness is what I'm hearing, though.
Nobody dislikes
spiciness.
Okay,
there you go.
But I'm in it for the creative spirit of this request. So you can text that in 855-VERBAL-3 as well, or
text those spicy costumes.
Do not text the spice.
Don't listen to Ty. Listen.
You want to see now. You're talking him up.
Don't hear Ty. Listen to him, or don't listen to him. Hear him.
You're the one saying Skin Tight Saturday, not me.
You're too kind.
Now,
on that note, for that guy over there in the heart of the Midwest, Dan Rubenstein, who I will see in just a few short hours. For myself, Ty Hildebrandt, still in Eastern PA. We will talk to you all on Saturday. In the meantime, stay solid.
Peace.